I would say we were viewed as teachers. Coach Ethan Reeve always said, when coaches are like, I don't want to teach the clean, it's too complicated. He said, but you are a teacher. You're supposed to understand how to break it down, how to reverse engineer it, how to introduce them with it. But, Rusty Witt told me a year ago, you know, 50% of the football team is new every year. And so football teams, from what I understand, are not really recruiting true freshmen. I mean, they say sometimes like 2 or 3 or 4 true freshmen come out. So I remember way back in the day, '08, Joe Ken was at Louisville. Maybe it was '09, and they were playing Rutgers. So he brought his staff and trained with us. And I remember we were talking. It's Adam, Adam Fife. It's Joe
Hmm.
Connolly. There's a guy, Brian Dermody, who I don't know if he's at Iowa anymore. I think he became a pastor, was a strength coach, powerlifter. But all the other guys are still coaching. Long story short, they were telling me about their introductory, like, what are you doing for the true freshmen? They're like, we go for 6 weeks, all body weight, all unilateral. We're doing one arm push ups against the wall, Bulgarian split squats, assisted eccentric pistol squats, 5-second eccentrics, building them because they're coming from a high school program where all they did was squat, bench, and clean.
If
Now,
they're lucky.
right now, those introductory programs are out because you don't get that. So it's going to be real interesting to see what's going to happen to college sports, of course, with NIL, but more so, it's a money thing. So, like, kids are, now they're going to go to junior college, or I'm going where you pay me. It's just changed. Coaches, for the most part, are purists. It's just this thing that, like, we love training, we love coaching. And now you're not teaching as much. You're like this, I don't understand. You're like a vehicle and just kind of moving them to places. And maybe you're still in your 30s, but I almost wonder if, like, the generation of coaches that are in their 20s, if it just makes more sense to them because they grew up on a phone swiping away. So they're like not in shock when kids are coming and going because they've kind of viewed life as the way they view a
15-second video.
or a 5-second video.
Bored.
Yeah, I'm just swiping away. So what? That kid left in a semester. That's normal. And for example, when I'm coaching, yes, sometimes I'm recording videos, but I'm not texting anybody. I'm not checking emails or anything. But I said to a buddy of mine, I said, I think the high school kids today, if they saw their coach like on their phone, they wouldn't be like, oh my God, coach is on his phone, coach is on her phone. They'd be like, yeah, so what? We're always on our phone. That's what we do. But we, as the pure strength coach, you'd be like, no, no, no. You're locked in. This is their time. You're not supposed to be touching your phone. And I was telling you, my buddy coaches lacrosse. His practices are an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow,
But
that's short.
he says back in the day, 2 hours, 2.5
Yeah.
hours. I go, I bet you the kids like it today. He goes, they love it. They love a shorter practice. They don't want to do more. And he said, and if they can, now they want to go to club lacrosse or club wrestling or club, name the sport, for the next practice of the day. So they're never maximizing that session. They're kind of holding back a little so they could get to the next thing that day, and sometimes 3 things that day. And so sports are in a weird place. I'm calling it lately the matrix,
Explain.
meaning I'm a dad. My daughter's going to be in college next year. My son's a sophomore. He's been big in baseball, but he's played basketball. He's wrestled. My daughter played basketball, but very heavy with tennis. And it's interesting, like starting with my daughter, she is a very good tennis player. She had one loss her senior year. She's a 2-time county champ. Her loss was to the runner up in the States in a tiebreaker. And you think there's going to be all these opportunities when you're younger. And the reality is there's not because, we're in South Carolina. She loves it in the South, the warm weather. And we're looking and visiting at all these schools. And there's sometimes not one American tennis player on the team. They're all international from Ukraine and Poland and different areas of, Russia, China, Japan. And it's like, whoa, we've been investing in this, not because we think there's this payout at the end, but because my daughter loved tennis. It was like
Mhm.
in her blood. But you do hope as a parent, hey, there'll be a payoff. Like, we're not going to pay for college. Well, the college she's going to, the first email was, we would love to connect with you, but we are putting this out front that there is no scholarship for women's tennis here. And you're like, you're kind of heartbroken by that, because on a football team, 80 something players, nobody's paying a dime. And some of them don't even play. Yet if you're in tennis, I've seen my daughter like bleed out there. Like, she once had a match that was like over 3 hours in
Wow.
Georgia. It must have been over 100 degrees on the court. Just so tough. And so you just think that there's going to be, or you hope that there's going to be something at the end of the tunnel. And I've coached at Rutgers and Lehigh, but before NIL. But even during that time, Tex, what I saw was every 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks, a kid quits the team. Some kids would transfer. Now, it was pretty rare. I did see some kids transfer, but for the most part, they quit, or they were kind of like, the coach was like, listen, like, you're just not making it. And so they kind of just stepped down. These are kids that, I worked with wrestling that are state champs. Then they come to a school and like they're like sixth in the depth
Yeah.
of it. And this thing that they grew up doing, mom and dad hope that they're going to be able to watch them in college. And now they're like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I am just been doing it all my life, all summer long. I don't even know what it's like to have a vacation.
Yeah.
And so you're in this matrix. My kid's the best. My kid's this. My kid's that. And then you get to college and they're like, ah. And not only that, you know what the percent of kids who compete in college, right? Do you want to, what have you heard is the percent of high school kids go to compete in college?
Any sport at all.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking maybe 5,
Yep.
6%.
Something like that. Well, then by sophomore year, about half of them quit, at least a third. And how many are going D1? And so, but sometimes nobody in the school goes D1 in any sport in that year. But then, but you have this thing like kids play soccer in New Jersey. There's travel clubs that have the kids, or I guess their parents, sign a contract that if you're on our, McQuilkin travel soccer teams, you do not play for your high school.
Yeah.
That to me is heartbreaking to see the dismantling and the division of school sports. It's really sad, Tex.